Alright, hey guys, I'm the Game here and I'm back with another video, and today guys I'm doing another edition of games I recently brought online. This is going to be episode 6 of this series, and you should know the gist of this series by now. It's basically a pickup series, sort of, where I show you guys just some random games that I brought online, mainly through eBay and stuff. But I would like to point out before this video begins that I've only got just 4 games to show you guys in this episode, and that's mainly because I've kind of taken a break from game collecting recently. For the last couple months or so, I've mainly just been spending my money on CD collecting instead. I mean, that's the bulk of what I've been buying recently. It's just been music CDs, I've really been getting into buying CDs recently, buying my favorite albums on CD and stuff. And yeah, and game collecting has just been on the back burner for a while, mainly just because back in March, I actually went into overdraft for the first time, on my bank account. I was in the negatives for the first time because of just how much fucking money I was spending on games. It was just too much. And I just needed a break from it, honestly. I was just spending way too much goddamn money on eBay, and I decided to focus on a somewhat less expensive hobby, which is music CD collecting. So yeah, so this will be probably a bit of a shorter episode, but I hope you guys enjoy it regardless. Yeah, so let's just get straight on with what I got. So starting things off, we have a very expensive and a pretty rare game here that I brought back in March. FIFA 14 Legacy Edition for the PlayStation 2. Now, if you know anything about the PlayStation 2, and if you know about how long the system was supported for, it was supported for 13 years, pretty much all the way up until the PS4 was about to come out. The PS2 was just it's crazy how long Sony supported that system for. But yeah, FIFA 14 here was one of the very last games ever made for the PS2. It wasn't the very last one. The very last one ever was PES 2014, which came out a couple months after FIFA 14, I believe. But yeah, but this was the second to last ever PlayStation 2 game ever made back in 2013. And yeah, it was very expensive. But honestly, considering how much this game usually goes for, I got a pretty good deal on it. I spent about 20 quid on this, and it's in really good condition, and it is complete. There it is, the manual on the disc. But yeah, I haven't even tested it out yet, but I'm just really happy to finally have this because I've wanted this game for such a long time. Just the fact that they were still making games, for the PS2 in 2013 is insane. I mean, this game came out the same month as GTA 5. September 2013, so it's just crazy, I mean, I know 20 quid is a lot of money to spend on an old football game, but again, considering how much it usually goes for, because it was one of the last games ever made for the PS2, it's really expensive. And yeah, 20 quid was a decent price for this, considering how much it usually goes for. But yeah, I'm really happy to finally have this game after all these years. I do want to get the last ever PS2 game, PES 2014. I actually do have the instruction manual for that game, which I brought on eBay back in February, I think. I never showed off in a video before, but I posted about it on my Twitter. But yeah, I actually have the instruction manual for the last ever PlayStation 2 game. Not the game itself, unfortunately, but yeah, I have the manual for it, which was like 3 quid or something. It was surprisingly really cheap. But yeah, here it is. This is the manual for the German version. Yeah, all the text and stuff is all in German. But yeah, it is the authentic, the manual for the last ever PS2 game. And yeah, hopefully one day I'll get the actual game itself. And but yeah, but just a cool bit of PlayStation history right here. Alright, and then moving on to another game that's really expensive. A game that you would never ever would think would be expensive, but it is for some reason. Angry Birds Star Wars for the PS4. Now, on any other platform, Angry Birds Star Wars would be worth nothing pretty much. I mean, this game was on obviously originally it was on iOS, obviously it was Angry Birds. Yeah, it came to consoles, it came to PS3, Xbox 60, Wii U, 3DS, all that. And it also came to PS4 and Xbox One as launch titles for those systems in 2013. And yeah, and for some reason, out of all the versions of Angry Birds Star Wars that came out on consoles, the PS4 version is really expensive for some reason, and I'm not entirely sure why. My guess is that it just didn't sell well on PS4. I'm not entirely sure why this game is as expensive as it is, but I got it for a pretty decent price. I got it for £11.50, which is a lot for Angry Birds Star Wars, but for this version specifically, it's actually a pretty good deal, considering how much this version goes. I mean, just go on eBay and you'll see just how expensive this version goes for. The Xbox One version is kind of expensive as well, but the PS4 version does go for a little bit more than the Xbox One version. But yeah, there it is, got the disc there. It has an annoying sticker on it, on the disc and on the back, but yeah, which I haven't bothered taking it off yet because of like the sticker residue at the bottom. But yeah, a game that you would never ever think would be really expensive, but it is. And this is now my 4th copy of Angry Birds Star Wars. Like legit, I have this game not only for the PS4, but I've also got it for the Xbox 360, the Wii U, and the 3DS. Yes, don't ask why, but for some reason, I have 4 versions of Angry Birds Star Wars on 4 different systems. I'm going to be honest, even I don't fucking know why, but I just do. Alright, moving on to the next game, which I brought very recently. This game I actually had before, earlier in the year. I had like a loose cart copy of this game, but I ultimately sold it and got another copy because I was unhappy with the condition that my first copy was in. So I brought another one recently, and that is Tony Hawk's Skateboarding for the Game Boy Color, which is, as you can see, complete in box. It does have the manual in there, which I'll show you in a minute. So yeah, so I brought a loose card copy of this game back in January, I think it was. I actually showed it off in the last episode of the series, in episode 5. And yeah, I ultimately sold that copy just because I was unhappy with the condition that it was in. Basically, like the front label of the cartridge, like all the colours and stuff were like really sun faded. You know, like it looked all washed out and stuff. And even like the cartridge itself had like a weird like green tint to it. Like it wasn't like properly clear plastic like Game Boy Color games are supposed to be. It had like a weird tint of green to it. So I ultimately sold it and ended up getting another copy with the original box, which is in pretty decent condition except for the back, which is yeah, pretty beaten up, as you can see. But it does have everything inside. I'll show you. So got the manual, the little Game Boy booklet, and the cartridge right there with the original cardboard holder. So yeah, so it is a complete copy. This is my first ever complete in box Game Boy Color game. I have gotten a few complete in box GBA games before in the past, but this is the first time I've gotten a complete in box game for the Game Boy Color. So yeah, and of course it was Tony Hawk, the first one, Skateboarding and Game Boy Color. So yeah, really cool to have this, you know, my first ever complete in box GBC game, although it is pretty beaten up. But yeah, this was about £6.50. Nearly £7. But yeah, I wish I brought a better condition copy of this. But yeah, but still, it's pretty cool to have regardless. Alright, and then next up, we actually have a demo disc. A demo disc for a game which I think is highly underrated. It's one of my favourite games on the PlayStation 2. And I'm of course talking about Sean Palmer's Pro Snowboarder. Yeah, I've had the original game for, gee, I don't even know how many years now, like well over a decade. And yeah, I absolutely love it. And yeah, and I was just scrolling through eBay and I found this this demo disc on here, which I had no idea even existed. I had no idea there was a demo disc released specifically for Pro Snowboarder. I put a bid on it and I ended up winning, and yeah, it was only £3 in total. It's basically just like a 1-level demo disc of Pro Snowboarder. If you've ever played the demo that was featured in the PS2 version of Pro Skater 3, it's basically the same thing, where it's basically just like the first level of the game, and it only has just one track, which just loops constantly. Spine Shank New Disease. And yeah, I thought it would just be a pretty cool thing to add to the collection. You know, I love the original game, and yeah, and it's cool to have this this demo disc for it. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure like how rare this is. Even if it is like super rare, like I doubt it's even worth anything, but still really cool to own. You know, I'd never seen one of these before until recently, so I decided just to grab it, you know, because I love the original game. Alright, so that was all the games I brought on eBay recently. Like I said, not a lot, only 4, but there is something else I want to show you guys before I end off this video. Something which is gaming related, and that is an old Xbox 360 magazine plus a bonus disc. Not just any old 360 magazine, this is actually the very first issue of the official UK Xbox 360 magazine. Yes, the very first issue ever made of the official 360 magazine. This is from September 2005. Yeah, I've never brought like an old like gaming magazine before. Like I used to have some of my my dad used to give me some of his old Xbox magazines, like issue 100 goes over like the Xbox One and stuff right before it was about to launch. But yeah, but it's something that I wouldn't mind like getting into, collecting older video game magazines. This is my first time like ever buying one. But yeah, it's the very first issue of the 360 magazine. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Goes over the controller and stuff, some of the upcoming games, some of the launch titles for the 360. You got Oblivion there. I'm got an ad for Burnout Revenge and Burnout Legends. Pretty cool. So yeah, it just goes over some of the 360's early titles. Condemned, Call of Duty 2, you know, Quake 4, yeah, an advertisement for the original Xbox magazine, and yeah, it's just really cool, you know. So yeah, this cost me nearly £8. It's quite pricey, considering the magazine originally retailed for $5.99, but yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, you know, like you very rarely see the first issue of the 360 magazine for sale on eBay. So when I saw it there, you know, I put a bid on it, and because you very rarely ever see it for sale. And yeah, and I want it. I'm not entirely sure if I am going to collect like more old like Xbox magazines or PlayStation magazines or whatever in the future. It would be cool to, but only if they were cheap enough and stuff. Like I might just like buy like a big bulk. Like if I was really serious about getting into collecting old retro magazines and stuff, I'd probably just buy like a big bulk of them. But yeah, this magazine also did come with a bonus disc as well. This doesn't have any like game demos on it, and it just has like some video and like some interviews for people from Microsoft back in the day. So yeah, I tried putting in my 360 and it wouldn't even like recognize the disc. It doesn't have any actual like game demos on it, but yeah, this came with the magazine. So there you have it, guys. That was today's episode of games I recently bought online. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, I know it was a bit of a short one because I didn't buy much recently, but regardless, hopefully in the next episode I'll have more games to show you guys, and hopefully soon I'll start getting back into, you know, game collecting, because I've still kind of taken a break from it. So yeah, so with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Please like, subscribe, and peace. And I shall see you guys in the next video.